Take it. Come on, come on. Just take the Matrix. Oh, come on. No, don't you want to grow up to be big and strong and responsible for... Wait a minute. This is Monday's script. I'm in something of a classic mood today, and by that I don't mean I'm gonna review something from Transformers Classics, I just mean it's time for something a little bit old school. By that I mean, something about as old school as Transformers get. And it occurs to me that I'm not very clear with my words today, which means it's a great time to do a review of Generation 1 Hot Rod, one of the first toys I can remember having as a kid, though this is not the one I had. This one, no, that one did not fare my childhood very well, as I was very apt to play with that toy any chance I got. Nope, this one was kindly provided, and by that I mean I bought it off eBay. As you can see, the original Hot Rod toy, extremely sleek, futuristic sports car. Very, very cool design. I always loved how sleek this toy looked and how rounded it was compared to a standard Transformer back then. Was very boxy and blocky, like a real-world vehicle from the 80s. All these smooth and angled lines were a much, much desired change of pace that I really, really enjoyed. Like, I always gravitated to these movie designs and later G1 stuff because it looked so much cooler than just your standard old vehicle Transformers. He's cast in a nice red plastic with little bits of orange showing through here and there, including some sticker detail meant to hide that orange. It's actually not accurate to the original animation model, which is kind of strange, but hey, we know G1 toys never really accurate to the animation, though this one should be. This is one of the few figures that was actually designed based on the animation model first. All the others were done the other way. Toy came first, and they based the animation off of that. They did it differently for the movie stuff, which makes this also one of the very first toys produced specifically for Transformers, not borrowed from a Japanese line like Diaclone or Microman or anything like that. So he's got some noteworthiness to him too. So that tangent aside, let's get back to looking over details. He has his signature spoiler, bright yellow of course, and this is where I like it the most. It's very sharp and angled. It's not trying to look like a realistic spoiler in any way like most of the modern hot rods attempt to do. That's much to my preference, as is this really nice chrome detail along the side for massive exhaust pipes, because hey, why not? It's a futuristic hot rod. Why not have big metal exhaust pipes? Oh, and yeah, big chrome engine up front too. It's actually quite cool. I always liked this kind of blend of the futuristic, but still with some of those classic details in there. This is still the age of rubber wheels, though the diecast content on this guy, which was going to be the feet for the robot mode, you may have and you may not have. This is the plastic version, which came later. So beyond that, what do we have here? Well, we have the sticker detail in the front, bright yellow flames on orange, and this is one of those details that I don't think any modern hot rod can get right. Almost every time I see hot rod now, the flames are almost indistinguishable from the orange. It's really weird, and they keep doing it. You also have the rub symbol. Does it still work after 30 years? Not to a great extent. No, it is an old rub sign, so we're not going to bother. Translucent windshield. I love the blue here. Can we see Daniel inside? I don't think we can. Oh well. Also, we have some flame detail on the side, and interestingly enough, there's some strange pink detailing to it, because originally this toy was meant to be a shade of pink much closer to that, which meant he would have looked much more like he did in the '86 movie. Kind of strange to make that changed and still leave the stickers inaccurate, but I guess some things are just too far along in the process to change at that point. So what else can we do? Well, rubber tires means he rolls quite smoothly and quite well across just about any surface. He also has not one, but two guns, which we'll take a closer look at in robot mode, but for now I will point out that they do fit rather snugly, but they do fit inside the engine for the traditional G1 that looks absolutely ridiculous weaponized vehicle mode. It's just an option, and hey, you're free to let your imagination play with those. So yeah, I love this vehicle mode. So let's get him transformed. We'll see what the Chosen One actually looks like when you get him to the robot mode. So, starting off by sliding the feet out. Interestingly enough, among other weirdnesses about this toy, there's little catches inside, little tabs that keep those legs from going out any further. If they could, you'd actually see sculpted knee detail that isn't completely omitted now. Like, for whatever reason, they decided the legs shouldn't go out any farther than that. I don't know, it's strange. Just strange. I've never had the guts to actually modify a G1 hot rod just to see what he looked like with the knees. I've seen photos of it though, and he does look like it helps his proportions quite a bit. That's a pretty standard transformation until we get to the hood, where he gets kind of interesting. If I can lift that up, and weird angled double hinge to get the head out. We flip this around, we have to raise it up so that piece clears the yellow bar. That should click into position. It's a little bit tight to get in, but it does click. You heard it there. Just to make sure it's on camera. And click. And then rotate the crotch around. That's always nice to do. And plug that wide tab into that slot. There, we're going to rotate this piece around, the part that modern hot rods can never get right. We'll look at it here in a bit, but for now, we're just going to be happy that we've got him into robot mode in one go, and nothing breaking on this very old toy at this point. So, how does our Chosen One look? Quite good. For his age, for his day, he's actually a pretty complex transformer, and it doesn't seem like it, because we've been through the movie toys, but back then, there's actually a lot going on, especially in that torso and that front end transformation. There's actually a lot more moving parts going on than typical, and I remember as a kid fumbling on that quite a bit, trying to figure out how to get everything to go to get it actually into his full form. Looking at the head, well, that's about as hot rod as you get now, isn't it? There's a few things to point out. For instance, unlike most of modern hot rods that keep the engine on his chest now, it's actually stuck to the back of his head, which means his chest actually looks like it does in the cartoon. That's nice. Oh, by the way, thank you Takara for fixing that on the Titan Return mold. You also notice he doesn't have that fin thing they always add to the top of his head now, that weird eyebrow thing that looks like his big yellow spoiler, because he never had that detail. I hate when they add it. So that's a much preferred look for me for the Autobots' young upstart would-be leader. Proportionally, he actually looks quite good. A lot of movie toys ended up having interesting shapes and sizes to them. These are actually a fair bit bigger than your standard Autobot toy was back then. If I grab, I guess hang on. Since I'm trying to... That'll be cleaned up later, hopefully. Yeah, this is what happens when I just grab things from the shelves without preparing them in advance. Like, if I compare him to, like, a standard fare, I would guess his actual equivalent from G1's first year would be Sideswipe. So if I put him right next, like, you can tell, massive change in size, considering they're basically the same style of character, same style of vehicle, even. It's pretty drastic, just how much the movie line ended up changing a lot of things. But still, it meant you had a much cooler toy as a kid, you know. Bigger was better. And proportionally, I do like him, though I can see where he'd look a little bit better if his legs were just a little bit longer. Of course, a lot of new detail does show up. He has plenty of those old school metallic stickers. Little details like his those little lines on his shoulders tend to carry over to some of the modern depictions. At the very least, they remembered to make them gray or silver to match. And details like, I always liked how the headlights formed the orange details across his belly. I'm not even sure why. Maybe it looks like he just has like two really good abs. Just two really strong abs. And of course, his main detail that always gets carried over, the legs, original stickers with the triple, red, orange, yellow in his colors, because he is all about red, yellow, and orange. Now, here's the big thing for me. I can actually see his spoiler. This is the part that no Hot Rod even gets right anymore, and it drives me up the wall. I want to be able to see his spoiler in robot mode. That's not hard, but apparently it is. Because this is how it should look. This looks cool. Like I like how that looks, and you just don't get it anymore, unfortunately. Okay, so besides that, what else do we have going on here? Well, he's G1, so there's no like real flip out gimmicks, or he doesn't like make other cannons pop out of his back or anything. Speaking of, he manages to get that spoiler done with a very clean backside. Not a whole lot of like big folded up kibble backpacks like you get these days. Nothing really in the shoulders for articulation. Nothing head, nothing at all, because it's G1. The only articulation you're going to get is his elbows do have a 90-degree bend, and he does have a rotation at the bicep, and that's about it. And that's about on par for G1, especially in the movie lines. The movie lines and the later G1 stuff actually tended to have lower articulation in spite of how much their size and in some cases their complexity increased. It's kind of strange. You'd think those would be mutually inclusive. They are not, unfortunately. So you tended to get one or the other in G1, but still, it was an old toy that meant you had to use your imagination, and I still got a lot of fun out of it. So let's go ahead with his weaponry. We'll go ahead and arm up our chosen one. Here's the interesting thing I always liked is the fact that his two guns are not twin guns. Like, they are very distinct designs, all their own. It's kind of interesting because usually you would expect them to have like, twin pistols or twin rifles or something like that. And here he actually does have unique weaponry, which would make me think they did different things. I think they're both considered photon lasers though. Well, he just has two photon lasers of different designs. I don't know, maybe he had two and had to replace one, or liked one and decided to get another, and oh no, we switched. It's a new model now. Great. Thank you, iGun, because you go with your new model every 6 months. So that, my friends, is G1 Hot Rod. Whether you know him as Rodimus, Rodimus Major, Rodimus Minor, Rodimus Primal, whatever you decide to call your sports car in red and orange. I've always really liked this toy. I've always really liked the character in general, but it's one of those that stuck with me for a long time, and one of the few from my childhood that as soon as the internet was around, I felt like I had to go back and get that toy. And it's always held a really special spot in my collection ever since. I don't know, maybe I'm just a sucker for the character, but I know it's not what you'd expect. It's not what you'd expect out of a toy these days. But for its time, I think it was really good.